Hi, I'm Kyle with DIY Auto Homeschool, and today we've got a little bit of a different video going on. I was in the process of filming the video for how to diagnose a starter or how to diagnose a starting system, and I had some pretty hefty setbacks. So for the time being, I'm not able to finish that video, but it will be finished as soon as I can, and I'll get it up for you guys. But one of the sections that was going to be in that video was when we dive a little deeper into exactly what happens inside a starter solenoid when it's engaged, and I thought some of you might find the information useful or interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and take that small section that was going to be in that video, and I'm just going to put it out in its own video here for you guys to see, and hopefully get a little bit better understanding of everything that goes on inside the starter solenoid when it's engaged. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, what we're seeing here are two coils on the starter solenoid, and these two coils here are known as the pull-in windings and hold-in windings. And the reason we need two coils on these is because it takes more force to pull the solenoid closed than it does to hold it closed once it's already there. So both of these coils on the solenoid are going to energize, but once the solenoid has closed the bar across to power up the starter motor, one of the coils is going to shut off, and we'll walk through exactly what happens as power flows through here, and we'll see how they both turn on and why one turns off. Okay, so what happens when we get the starter signal coming in on the black and white wire, which is our start wire? It will flow through both of the coils in the starter solenoid, which we've already shown are the pull-in windings and the hold-in windings, and then it will flow after it goes through the pull-in windings out of the solenoid and through another coil or set of resistance, however they've got this set up that they show here before it gets into the starter motor. And what that's going to do is that's going to cut the amperage down, because we know that the starter motor is just a big thick wire that runs through there that will represent almost no resistance in this situation, because it's not a high enough amperage to turn that into the magnetic field that it usually will be when the starter's turning. So our armature in the starter motor is actually acting just like a ground wire. So both of the coils in the solenoid are going to turn on, and the third coil just before the starter motor is going to turn on, but it's going to be low enough amperage that that starter motor is not actually going to move, and it's just going to be a ground path. So those two coils in the solenoid are going to provide the magnetic force needed to pull that solenoid closed and close the contacts, and then allow the current to flow through the contacts in the starter solenoid and run the high amp cable to the starter motor. And we'll look at what happens when that takes place. Okay, what we see is that with the solenoid shut, or the circuit completed, when the solenoid turns on, allowing the current to flow from the thick gauge wire coming from the battery through the solenoid down into the starter motor. Immediately, the section of the section of the circuit from where the pull-in windings start all the way down to where they meet up with the circuit flowing into the starter motor, it becomes essentially dead. There's still voltage present on it, but because it's not flowing to a ground, it's flowing to another source of voltage, it's going to essentially be completely shut off. There's no current flow. That coil is going to be shut off at this time. So that is how we have turned on two coils to pull the solenoid shut, and the action of the solenoid shutting is going to cut off the ground path for the pull-in winding. So now only the hold-in windings are holding this starter engaged, or holding the solenoid shut and the starter engaged until the key is let off or the start signal goes away. And that's the state it's going to stay in until the starter is completed doing its job of starting the engine. Well, that was the more detailed rundown of exactly what goes on inside the starter solenoid, and that's a starter mounted solenoid. As the diagram showed, there's the one that's built into the starter or on the starter, but that's what goes on inside of it. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit about how the starting system works, and the in-depth knowledge like that is not necessarily a requirement to understand how these starters work. Pretty much, you can diagnose a starter's bad without understanding all those details. But it never hurts to really have a good, deep, and thorough understanding of exactly everything that's going on in a system. It helps you build a better picture in your mind of what's going on when you're trying to diagnose these systems. So, like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helps some of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this. And I will see you on the next video.